Today we've been talking to Tom, founder of Future Chateau, a wine based on ancient traditions for a lighter, more enjoyable experience. He shares what the first 9 months running a new wine business is like and how he's leveraged a focused distribution network to cut through. We hope you love it.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having
So good to
me.
meet you properly. This is
Yeah.
great. I guess one of the first things we're going to talk about is like big gambles. It sounds like you're on a bit of a roller coaster for the last, 9 months or not even that.
Reckless.
Yes. But exciting.
Yeah.
So tell us all about that.
Well, the big gamble was I made the big commitment that I was gonna do this, committed to the grapes, everything, in December 2024, and then that week found out that my wife was pregnant. We were gonna have a kid, and for me to commit to that level of grapes, I knew I was gonna have to leave my job. I was gonna have to go full time. This was gonna have to be all in. My wife is freelance, doesn't get any maternity pay. And so within a week, we went from being so excited, I'm finally doing this, to shit.
Yeah.
How are we gonna live? And I was genuinely on the fence, do I not do this? And thank God, Rosie was like, look, you've missed your chance to do this at a good time. There's never going to be a good time again. So you're always going to kick yourself if you don't do it. You're not going to be able to live with yourself if you don't follow through. I'd been working on this for 5 years by that point.
Oh, really?
And she was like, you just have to do it. There's no other option, and we'll make it work. However, so yeah, literally the week we found out, it was just fuck it, we have literally no other choice. And just dove head first, and then 9 months later, my son was born, and that same fortnight took first delivery of the product. So we launched in Selfridges 10 days after my son was born.
Wow.
And been on that roller coaster ever since.
Yeah. There's just so much to unpack, isn't there? Tell us about so just after that launch, tell us about some of the big moments that have really impacted the business and caused this trajectory. You mentioned about the radio.
Yeah, the biggest things that have happened to us was a 15-minute interview on Radio 4. God knows how they came across me, but they the producer of the show just reached out on the Tuesday and said, "Do you want to be on the radio on Thursday?" And that was unbelievable. That just catapulted us to a level of awareness that I would never have expected at that stage, without spending any money, because at this point we still had no money. So I produced the first vintage without raising a penny. I didn't have any marketing budget. We were as lean as you can get, and all of a sudden we had 50 minutes on Radio 4 at midday on a Thursday. It's unbelievable. And then we've had some amazing kind of celebrities come across us. I know you guys came across me because Jamie Lang wrote the most amazing thing on LinkedIn and Instagram about the business. I've never met Jamie. What a lovely thing to do. What a lovely way to use your profile. Jamie Morton, the host of My Dad Wrote a Porno and director of musicals, he came across us, loved us, talks about us all the time now. He's actually an investor now.
Oh, amazing.
Who else? Will Greenwood, same. We've spotted ourselves in the background of Table Manners podcasts.
Oh, cool.
Just Jessie Ware's podcast. So it's just these, when you're a brand with no money, people with a big profile organically coming across it. The first ever uplift we ever got was Lisa Faulkner, came across the wines, bought some, and posted an Instagram story of her husband John recording, and she does a taste test, and you can tell she's really skeptical. And she takes a sip and she's like, okay, let's see what this is like. And her reaction is just gold because it's so natural, and she just goes, oh my God, that's delicious. And it was a 7-second Instagram story, and it just immediately sales just went vroom. and actually, if I think about everything we've done since, it's all come from that insight that all people want to know about this product is it's delicious.
Yeah.
So the last 9 months, we've been so lucky with the people who've naturally come across the product, bought it, and talked about it when, you know, they don't need to. They don't get anything for it. Like, it's just so lovely.
It's not luck. I think it's so interesting because there's a million businesses out there that are trying to get products out there that will send free products out and try and pay influencers to do what you're getting for free.
Yeah.
And that is because it's a good product.
Yeah.
It must be. That's the only,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I've tried it, so I know it is. But that must be the only way because...
But do you also think it's your distribution strategy? Because you said at the beginning that you got listed in Selfridges.
Yeah,
Your
very
average,
interesting.
maybe that's a rude way to say, but like your average consumer isn't necessarily in Selfridges, but the person that is looking in the wine section of Selfridges potentially, I would guess, has more disposable income, potentially has more reach. So like, was that strategic to go upper market, for want of another phrase?
Like, it was more that I didn't want to get spread too thin.
Yeah.
So first vintage, we only had 25 customers max, 25 stockists max, because I wanted to know that people were selling the wine, because my wine's different, right? There's not anything on the market like mine. First people in the world for 200 years making wine in this style. And so I knew that I needed the guys who talk to customers to be able to understand that, to explain it. And so we launched with incredible places like Selfridges, Gladwell's, the grocery, Super Rare, like unbelievable, iconic places. Actually, that reminds me, another one that came from nowhere, Dua Lipa's newsletter gave us a lovely shout out. And then we later found out that she's a regular at Super Rare, which was one of our 25 stockists. It's like, oh, that's how she found it. But like,
yeah, so you're
I think
right.
that
It's a
it's such a
distribution
big
strategy.
thing that if someone's, because the thing about wine, right, is 98% of people will find wine really intimidating.
Yeah.
And they hate choosing.
Yeah.
And they feel so worried about getting it wrong, looking stupid. There's basically 2% of people who spend about 10% of the money who love choosing wine. But everyone else is so afraid of making the wrong decision that they really lean on the staff in good retailers. And so my best guess would be, if you're, you know, pretty wealthy celebrity and you buy your wine in Selfridges and you're looking around like, I don't know what to buy. And then the staff are really good at being like, well, this is Future Chateau.
Yeah.
This is what it is. It's an ancient, lighter style of wine. It's about half the alcohol. It's about half the calories, but it tastes amazing. That's just really powerful, I think.
Yeah.
So my best guess is that's how people are coming across us.
So I would say it's not luck.
Yeah.
It's a
Not
well
at all.
thought out marketing distribution strategy, which has paid off. But did you see that coming? Like, did you see, like, you'd be sat almost like 9 months later?
No. Because
Really?
also the first vintage was so scrappy. Like I said, I didn't have any money when I made it. I didn't want to raise yet because I wanted to have made a liquid before I fundraised, because I thought that without proving that I could make something delicious, there'd be no value in the business.
Fair.
But that meant I couldn't afford to pay for branding. So didn't spend a penny on the branding. I had to scrimp on packaging, that bottles, labels, corks were so much cheaper than I would want. Even the grapes weren't, like, the first white used a Sauvignon as the base, Sauvignon Blanc, which is the last grape you would want to use for my method. But it's cheap and I didn't have any money. So the first vintage was just so far off where I wanted it to be. But was necessary, right? Because if I'd gone straight in and dived into like, here's the product that I want to make, I would have got it wrong because I didn't have all the learnings I've gotten from the last 9 months.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much that's gone into the second vintage. So I'm really pleased I did it that way. But given how scrappy vintage one was, to answer your question, absolutely not. I expect it to get the erection it got. Like, yeah. I'm just buzzing.
How did you deal with like feeling comfortable with that? Because you said that a big part of what you're doing is it's not been done like this in 200 years. A big part is about the taste, because people potentially might be skeptical about the taste. You're then like creating a vintage, having to be scrappy with it. Yeah. And like to the point you just said, you're using a grape that you're like, this isn't 100% going to give the flavour I want.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Or how do you calculate that risk, I guess? It's worked out, so it's fine. But
Yeah, it's a really good question. I wouldn't say I dealt with it in a very good way. Like I was, I don't like. I was always kind of mortified by my first product, and I've got amazing friends and mentors, and like, you know, I remember my old boss, Pip Murray, found a Pip Nut. Going to see her and being like, I feel so embarrassed putting the wine in front of people because the packaging is so far off where I want it to be. And she was just like, Tom, like, no one in the world is holding these to the standard you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everyone else just looks at them and goes, yeah, they look good and they taste amazing.
Yeah.
And
Because
so
the
like,
taste is the main thing.
yeah. So people constantly telling me that my standards were so unlike anyone else's. That was a big part of it. But don't get me wrong, I had loads of fucking panicking about it. And then, to be honest, seeing the reaction and most importantly, seeing the customer data. Like, I don't know if I should say this on here, but over 5% of our customers reorder within 5 days of their delivery arriving. The industry benchmark is 120 days to get to 5% reorders because wine is slow, right?
Yeah.
Like, you send someone a case of wine, it goes on a shelf. It might be 2 weeks before they open a bottle at home. People don't open wine every week anymore. They open wine every 2 or 3 weeks. And the chance of it being your bottle...
Maybe not in this situation.
Yeah.
All right.
The chance of it being your bottle aren't that high.
Yeah.
And then by the time they've tried 2 or 3 and realize they want more, chances are like, well, 4 months have gone past for most businesses.
Yeah.
And for me, it's less than 5 days. Like, people open a bottle that night, hit up on another next day, and they go, shit, I'm going to run out in 2 days. And they order more. Like, and it's the most encouraging signal we've ever gotten. And that was with the first vintage. The second vintage is already outperforming that. It's only been in market for 2.5 weeks. But that was the big thing. Like, when I started seeing customers reorder so rapidly and so regularly, I would like phone customers, talk to them about why they like the product, what they like about it, and hearing from people firsthand how much they love it and why. I don't know. It basically took everything that Pip said to me, which was like, you're holding these to a completely unrealistic standard, and just, you know, drew it in ink. Like, normal people thought they were great.
Yeah.
And then they think the new ones are amazing.
Phenomenal.
So, yeah.
I mean, you can see even in like the branding has really evolved,
a
I
lot.
think, without being rude, since the first
massively.
vintage that we
Different.
tried. You wouldn't, I think if you took the name off, you wouldn't necessarily think it was the same brand.
No, by design.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a few factors, right? One is it didn't have any money. 2 is that who we're designing for was completely changed, and why we're designing, like the mission we're designing for was completely changed. So before launch, my best guess was my customer would be young people, because for the 5 years I was developing pre the first vintage, everyone in the industry told me these are going to be for young people.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, finally, we're going to get Gen Z into wine, you know, thank you. And so I designed a bottle for Gen Z, and Gen Z don't buy my wine. My wine is
Really?
all bought by really successful kind of 35, 40 to 65-year-old women.
Yeah.
Hello, here we are.
Stereotype.
Yeah. And there's like different subsegments within that who buy it for different reasons, but it's overwhelmingly, successful 40 to 60-year-old, 35 to 65-year-old women.
Yeah.
And yeah, like what they like about the wine, I'm understanding it's evolved a lot as well, because like before we launched, I thought that if we talked about the history of the category, no one would be interested. And so I was like, you know, let's make ourselves the future of wine. So the label is really futuristic.
Yeah.
People don't think the future is going to taste nice. They think the future will taste like silicon and AI. And, you know, yuck.
Yeah.
So now we're leaning much more into the fact that what we're doing isn't new. Like, we're just making wine in a ancient way that essentially predates like modern post-Bordeaux winemaking. And it's like our best performing bit of creative ever is a really simple, looks like UGC, and it just has text over it saying, did you know that wine being this like 12 to 15% heavy, boozy, you know, hangover jet fuel thing is only 200 years old. That's like 2% of wine's history. And before that, fine wine had half the alcohol and half the calories. And Future Chateau are bringing that old style back, and it's delicious. And that is by far our highest performing ever bit of creative. And it's all talking about the history and nothing about the future.
Yeah.
So that's all gone into the rebrand. And then, generally just like so much more premium. You know, it sits so naturally in the on-trade and places like Selfridges. And, we're about to go into another like similarly premium retailer. And then, like restaurants was the big thing for me, because I always wanted this to be a restaurant first business. And the first vintage didn't look like it fit in great restaurants. It's been so nice with this vintage, meeting sommeliers who are like buzzed to put it on the menu.
Oh, nice.
And we're now on some of the best wine lists in like, well, I was going to say London, but therefore in the world. Like we've just gone into cloth, which, I think, and lots of other people in the industry would say, like, is probably the best wine list in the country right now. It's a small list, like, just buzzing, absolutely buzzing. We could never have done that with vintage ones packaging. So,
No.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? How did you break into that? To getting in
Cloth.
with sommeliers? Yeah, specifically. Like, how did you make that happen?
Went and saw them, and people are interested in this, right? Because if you work in the trade, you know about the history of fine wine being lower alcohol, but you've never tried it. So people are really interested to try it. There's a lot of skepticism before they try. Wine is a very traditional category. People are pretty stuck in their ways, I would say. But I don't know, like tasting is believing with this stuff, It's like so often I meet with sommeliers and they like it, and I'll say, like, call over some of your wait staff and just give it to them and see what they think. Don't tell them anything about it. And they pour a glass for 3 or 4 waiters, and they're all just like, yeah, it's delicious. And the sommelier will be like, you notice something different about it? They're like, no. And it's just like, it's such a easy,
it's a
compelling
perception thing, isn't it? Because as soon as you hear like that there's lower alcohol in a wine, you think it's going to be I'm just going to say, you think it's going to be like Prosecco, where it's going to taste like Schlur. Yeah. And actually, like, you're drinking something that visually has bubbles in it and is that sort of yellowy colour in a sparkling wine, as an example, but actually doesn't taste anything like Prosecco, champagne or whatever. Yeah.
That's the hardest thing for us, is we're in a category where people have been burned so many times.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, we're not in that category, but we're adjacent to it.
Yes.
And people think we might be.
Yes.
And I say this with a lot of respect for the craft of de-alcoholizing, because it's unbelievably difficult. Some people are doing a pretty good job. I don't like any de-alcoholized wines. I've never tried one I liked. And the problem with all of them is that no matter what method you're using, like spinning cones or reverse osmosis, or I got someone approached me about one called Velvet Blade recently. But all of them, when you like dig into it, it's like step 1, heat the wine up. And if you heat wine to 85 degrees, it's never going to taste like wine again. So, like, with the greatest respect to all those people doing it, I know how difficult it is. I don't think any of those wines taste good. And I think a lot of consumers agree with me. And if you have tried 3 or 4 no and low wines that the brands are like, this one tastes great, and then you try it and you're like, no, it doesn't. It's really hard to get people to not think that we're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is why restaurants are so important. Because if a sommelier at Cloth tells you this is delicious, you don't for a second think, oh my God, it's going to taste like Prosecco.
Yeah. I guess that's the thing with your strategy is you basically put it where people can educate consumers on the taste, so they don't have to make the decision themselves. Yeah. Whereas when I go to like a low or no category, it's a risk, right? I look at the bottles, normally they're quite ugly, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend like the same as I'm spending on wine on this and it not taste nice. Whereas if I went into somewhere where you've got somebody that's like, oh, have you thought about trying this? It tastes like this, or like it's got the grape of this, or you're in a restaurant where you're told it, or you're seeing like a celebrity or a chef particularly, because a chef going back to that initial example of that first break, like a chef has a palate. I mean, we all do, but has a palate that you normally respect, right? So I think that has a lot of value.
And even if we weren't, you know, adjacent to Low and No, like when I worked in wine before Future Chateau, and you know, for a bigger company had more money, we did a study on how people choose wine, and 90% of the money spent on wine is spent by 98% of people, and those people, the main thing they're thinking about when they're buying a bottle of wine is, I don't want to be stupid. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want people to judge me wrong. I don't want to bring this to a friend's dinner party and then be like, what the fuck's that? And it's why people fall back on safety, right? Like it's why, like I think it's why Whispering Angel and Chocolate Block and Cloudy Bay have been so successful, because they're so safe. And if you bring it to a barbecue, at the very least, you're saying like, I spent 25 quid on this bottle of wine. And everyone knows you did.
That's my approach. If I don't know, I look at price and label. I'm like, it's got a pretty label and it's 25, so no one thinks I'm tight.
Exactly. And so like the whole category is just people not wanting to look stupid. And so it's so important that someone whose opinion you trust says, this is good. If you choose this, you're not stupid. You're actually clever. You're like ahead of the curve. You know, this is... And that's why I think as well, also the history of the category is playing really well for us at the moment, because it gives people an anecdote to tell when they open the bottle. And if you have an anecdote to tell, you're definitely not stupid.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because they can be like, well, this is, for 200 years, they haven't brewed like this. But this is light. And we wanted light, right? We're at a barbecue.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. I think it's really, really good.
So I didn't know that about the history.
No.
I bought it purely because Jamie Lang promoted it. I was like, okay, independent brand. I can't remember what he said in the post now, but I was like, oh, it sounds like it's going to taste nice and it's low alcohol. And in my mindset, I was like, I want to be drinking more wine and I want to be drinking less alcohol. But then when you're saying about your, like, the content that performs best, that would 100% resonate for the reasons that I don't want to admit, but the ones you're saying, it's like, wow, I seem really cultured because I understand that like there was a different way that wine was brewed before. Like immediately that feels like an anecdote I would love to spill, and I will.
It's such a culture is such a good word for it, actually, because I see other brands in like adjacent categories to us, and all they talk about is alcohol and calories, and it's like you're not cultured if you talk. If you have friends over for lunch and you're like, oh, I'm gonna open this bottle of wine, by the way, it's got half the alcohol, half the calories.
That
doesn't make you look clever in the way that being able to be like, this is how wines used to be made. Oh, and by the way, like a nice byproduct of that is it's got half the alcohol, half the calories.
Because I say that's when I'm survey of one of me, but like I always feel uncultured in like when I'm buying wine, because I'm like, I just have. And all my friends will say this, like, we have a simple palate, or like, oh, I'm not clever enough to know this, like I'm uncultured. And so I'll immediately defer to someone else. It's their responsibility.
I just fall back on the names I know.
Oh,
like you said, Cloudy Bay, for example.
Which
is so boring.
Side note, by the way, but that is like the biggest problem with wine. That people think that they can have a wrong opinion. You can't have a wrong opinion about wine. It's either yummy or it's not yummy. And if you can taste stuff, if you can be like, oh, I can taste some lemongrass in this or some minerality, whatever, like, cool, good for you. Like, bonus points, I guess. But like, all that matters is it yummy to you? And it doesn't even matter if it's yummy to anyone else. Like, is it yummy to you? That's what. But you know, wine has spent 100 years convincing people that there's right and wrong in wine, and if they're the wrong side of it, they're wrong. You know? But that's a side point. That's my separate little soapbox.
It's really interesting because I think going back to your audiences, it kind of makes sense the more you talk why it is like millennials plus that are buying it, because I guess when I was like 21, I cared less about the taste of stuff, and I just cared about the outcome of drink. And the price. Like, I'm less going to a friend's house being like, would you like to share this delicious bottle of wine? And more like, here's a bottle of vodka that I got for £6 from the corner shop. Like, you know?
Very different
Because also,
audience.
to use the word you used earlier, cultured, like, cultured isn't cool when you're 20.
No.
Like, fun is cool when you're 20. Silly is cool. Like, even
exactly.
buzzballs are killing it, right?
Exactly.
Basically liquid vapes.
I saw a guy yesterday on a bench. Like, I was walking my dog in the evening and he was just like, he was not homeless. I'm going to say he's sat with a carry bag, just drinking Buzzballs on his own. And I found that really unusual because I was like,
How old is he?
he seemed, I was going to say old enough to know better, which sounds terrible. He looked like late 20s, early 30s. But I was like, for me, like a Buzzball, I thought was like something you do pre-drinks or pre's, if you're cool, and let's call it that, with your friends, as opposed to like just be sat on a park bench,
Maybe had a rough
drinking.
day.
Yeah.
I do think that
Interesting.
vapes are such good marketing for Buzzballs.
Yeah,
Because I
true.
think that like vapes are making 35-year-olds, some 35-year-olds and older, realize that, do you know what? I really like stuff that tastes like incredibly sweet bubblegum.
Yeah, true.
And here's an alcohol that tastes like sweet bubblegum.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it's making some people realize that actually their tastes aren't that, conventionally mature, and that's fine. They don't have to be.
Yeah, that's
Like,
fine. Everyone's
if
different.
If you love triple pineapple, drink triple pineapple.
I've never had one. I'm too old.
No, I haven't had one either. We've got one in the fridge. The team put in there. Okay, so far we've obviously learnt a lot about you, but I don't understand your journey fully. So you've gone from Pip Nut
Yeah.
to wine.
Yeah.
Walk us through that, because this is quite the transition.
So I joined Pip Nut in 2014, pre-launch. It was just me and Pip for the first however long, 18 months, I think. Loved that business to bits. Like, thought it was going to be my baby forever. Was there for 6 years. My job title was Deputy Squirrel. Pip was Chief Squirrel.
Nice, love that.
It was the best job. And then COVID happened and I started drinking wine every day, as lots of people did. And then when the world stopped feeling like it was ending, I thought I should probably stop drinking wine every day because, who do I think I am? And so I did. And then immediately I was like, no, that life isn't for me anymore. I've gotten used to drinking wine every day. That's how I want to live now. Like, life is infinitely better when you have a glass of wine with dinner every night. And that makes me sound like an alco. And I'm not. Like, it's not that we were getting pissed every night, but I just started doing an experiment where I'd open a bottle of wine some nights and not others. And it was so apparent to me that on the nights I opened a bottle of wine, we were better people. Like, we had better conversations. We were more likely to sit at the table instead of on the sofa and listen to music while we ate instead of watching TV while we ate. And we were just better versions of ourselves in every way. And I was like, this wine stuff is magical. And I loved wine at the time. And I knew, by, I guess, civilian standards, I knew a fair bit about it, but I wasn't a winemaker or anything. But I just got a bit obsessed with why does it have to be so strong? Why does it have to be 3 times stronger than beer?
Yeah.
Because that rules you out of opening a bottle most nights.
Yeah.
If you want to be sensible. If you have a gym class in the morning, or if you have kids that are going to wake you up early or whatever. Or if it affects you and it affects your sleep, whatever. And so I went down a bit of a rabbit hole. I started talking to friends who were sommeliers and winemakers about why does it have to be so strong? Why can't you make it? And they were all like, Tom, it doesn't have to be so strong. It never used to be. It used to be about half the alcohol it is today. And that style still gets made, but only really on vineyards, or rather only really for vineyard workers. So it almost never gets sold. They don't make big batches. And it's for the guys who work on the vineyard to drink during harvest because it's light and fresh and about half the alcohol and perfect if you want to have wine with lunch and you've got a long afternoon ahead of you, or wine with dinner and you've got a potential 3 a.m. start to go and light some fires because you're going to have frost in the night, whatever. And it's made all over the world and has been for
So why do they not
thousands of
sell
years.
it? I mean, good for you.
Bureaucracy, a few kind of old laws, and just homogeneity. But lots of languages, different words for it. Roughly the translation is workers' wine.
Okay.
And I was just so enamored by this idea. And so I set out to try and make it. So I made a version in South Africa first. It was all right, quite volatile, not very scalable. I came home, tried to make something in the UK, closer to home. I tried to make products in Bordeaux. Didn't work at all. And eventually got this hunch that what I was looking for was a climate with very hot days and very cold nights, and a really big difference between the two. and quite like tough soil, like sandy, arid, that type of stuff. And I was like, I think that might be perfect for what I'm trying to do. And so eventually found myself in Northern Victoria, Australia, just about the longest possible commute, because it's like 36 hours to Melbourne, unless you fly direct, which is too expensive, and then an 8-hour drive north.
Wow.
So that sucks.
I mean, it sounds perfect timing to have a new baby as well at that, with that commute.
My wife is thrilled.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was about 3 years ago. And that kicked off then 3 more years of experimentation. Obviously the whole time I'm making no money. So I had to have a job as well. So I'd left Pip Nut back in 2020 because as soon as I knew I was going to do this, I knew I couldn't do it while working for Pip Nut. Like,
couldn't give the energy.
That was a job where I was just all in. Like I couldn't split myself. So I went, I worked for some amazing businesses, learned a ton. I worked for an amazing wine retailer. I worked for an incredible bone broth brand, like incredible brand. And I learned so much. And yeah, then last year made a scrappy first vintage, launched it in Selfridges in September. Used the results of that to get some like steam behind the business, some money into the business, and went and produced Vintage 2, which is the vintage that I always wanted to produce from day one in terms of the wines themselves, but the packaging and the look and feel and all the storytelling and everything around it is all stuff that I learned from having Vintage 1 in market. If I'd had the money the first time around, I would have created a very different brand and it wouldn't have worked as well. So kind of all worked out.
Wow. Yeah. So interesting, isn't it? What a journey.
Yeah. I
So
know.
cool.
I wouldn't have, people often say to me like, you know, why did you keep going for 6 years before you launched your first like good product? And honest answer is because I always thought I was 6 months away. If you'd told me I was 6 years away, I would have been like, fuck that. Anything else. But I always thought I was like one breakthrough away, you know? I guess I was. It's just the breakthroughs took longer to come than I thought they would. So
Yeah. Yeah, fair.
Is there anything you change over the last, I guess, almost 6 years, 5 years?
Yeah.
In your journey, like looking back, you're like, I wish I'd done this, or I wish I'd done that, or has it all happened for a reason and it's all good?
No, it's definitely stuff I changed.
Yeah.
There were some avenues that were a complete waste of time. Like I spent some time in Bordeaux trying to figure out if there was any way to de-alkalize without killing it, and there's just not. So that entire process was a waste of time. And if I hadn't done that, maybe I could have launched the business before my son was born and not had the crazy thing of starting a family and a business in the same week, same fortnight. So that's one regret.
Since you've launched this second vintage, like what's been your biggest win?
I mean, the coolest thing is we just became the most award-winning winery in the world for this field and this like, whole alcohol category. So between 0.5%, so basically non-alcohol, and 10%, we're now the most award-winning in the world, according to the most prestigious awards there are in wine. It's pretty cool.
That's
that
really
was, That was
cool.
the end of our first week.
That's awesome.
Trading with a new vintage. Like, it still feels very surreal to me. I can't really get over it. Like,
Yeah.
if I picture most award-winning winemaker in the world, I don't picture myself. Like, I picture someone that looks very different to me. So yeah, like not to toot my own horn, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's
it
really
is.
cool.
Yeah,
It
I'm
is.
pretty
You
buzzed.
should be really proud.
Yeah.
You should be really proud of everything you've achieved. Like, it's been less than a year. You've had multiple celeb call outs, or want another phrase, without paying them.
Yeah.
Like, you've got in some really good distribution and you've hit the restaurants and you've won an accolade. Like, that's, I'm sure like yourself 9 months ago wouldn't imagine sitting here saying those things, which is awesome.
Definitely not. I thought everything was going to happen so much slower. And just like, you know, I've always been very optimistic as a person. And so I've always like, had the optimistic view that I could make wine to this standard, this method. But I would also like, you know, try and force myself to, you know, take a big swig of settle down juice. Like, come on, Tom.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty
Concept.
difficult.
Yeah.
Like, be realistic. And it feels like we've just got to the point I always like dreamt of it getting to really, really quick, which is so
Amazing.
cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
So I can't wipe the smile off my face, but yeah.
Good.
That's great, though. You should be proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we've loved having you come in. I think we've maybe got time for one more. If you've got one more burning question.
Okay.
If you have.
I've
I
got a
don't know.
question.
I thought you might.
I've got
could
loads
get
of
that
questions,
vibe,
but
I
I'll
know.
just I'll just ask one. If you could do one thing tomorrow and know you definitely weren't going to fail, what would it be?
Oh, easy. You know how the Bible is split between BC and AD?
Yeah.
I want wine to be split by like BB and AB, like before Bordeaux, after Bordeaux.
Nice.
And imagine how good, because what I never want is to be shoved in a little separate section of a wine list. I don't want there to be like normal wine and then us, ancient lighter wine. Like, that's not aspirational. Like, wine is like a sexy romantic category, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to be off by the side. You want to be in the sexy romantic section. And so if I could just make it like the norm that when you listed wine on a wine list, you did like grape, year, producer, and then BB or AB.
Yeah.
And everyone knew what it meant. And everyone was like, oh, cool. And everyone could choose. Some nights you're in a restaurant or wine bar and you're like, do you know what? I'd like a big, boozy, heavy, inky Cab Sav. So I'm going to get this AB not Bordeaux, South African blend. Perfect. That's what I want. And other nights, like, do you know what? I'd like something a bit lighter, fresher, bit less nuclear for tomorrow. So I'm going to get this BB before Bordeaux, Pinot Noir from Germany, let's say. Like, that would be such an incredible way of people being able to order wine, understand wine.
Yeah.
And making it so that my category isn't the other. It's not like there's normal and then other. It would just be two normal categories from different parts of winemaking history. How cool would that be?
That would help us all be way more cultured.
It would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a
it would
while
be
before I
great.
can even attempt that. But,
That's cool. You've got to have aspirations.
That's a goal to have, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
Amazing.
much.
Thank
Thanks
you
for the
guys.
chat.
Oh,
Really
pleasure.
enjoyed
That's
it.
great.